Welcome to the Poke It podcast with me, Nicola Cairncross, and my co-host, Pete Jenkins. In the show, we'll be getting deeply interested in everything and everyone, including business and entrepreneurship, investing, crypto, great films, books and sci-fi, served up with great food and wine, and a little bit of gamification and the odd guest thrown in for good measure. You can join in the conversation anytime at the Poke It podcast private group on Facebook. Now let's see what we're going to be poking at today, shall we? Live. Welcome to Poke It the podcast with me, Nicola Cairncross, and my partner, Pete Jenkins, my co-host, I should say.
Co-host, yes.
And you're in another different location, Pete.
Oh, just turned around.
So
stairs
we're getting...
that are in the background are normally over there.
All right, you like to change of scene. You like a change of scene. Oh, there's a little dog in the background.
Yeah.
Have you thrown everybody out? Have you thrown everybody outside by the looks of it?
No, that's just split between two rooms so that we can both be on calls.
Oh, of course, because you're both working from home. Yeah. Well, you've got coffee, I've got coffee. We're all good to go this week.
Excellent.
Right, tell me about your week then.
I feel like I was busy, but it was quite quiet. What did I do? Because I had a couple of customers work that took a lot of effort to set up. But what have I done? So I enjoyed the first session of our Export Leaders program I've been doing with the local Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, yeah. Tell me what happened with that while I adjust my size and height. There we go.
We got a good number of people along, and I had to really sort of draw out their export experiences, and it turns out everyone exports more than they thought they did, as I suspected would be the case.
Yeah, because that's what happened with me, wasn't it?
Indeed, and I'm really quite excited about everyone who wants to really boost their export journey and come up with a strategy for doing it bigger and better, which I think is going to be really quite inspiring for the next few months while this program runs.
Well, that's great.
And I'm going to draw on their energy, I think. It's good. That makes a nice change. I've got a big client at the moment, but normally what I do is I just sort of sit in and advise and give feedback on the gamification things people are doing in these consulting projects. But in this instance, I really feel like, but in this instance, I feel like they really need someone to lead and give them the milestones and do a bit more, which I don't really normally do. So I've quite enjoyed having to set up quite a lot of process, I guess, for taking them along what I would normally do if I was just running a project myself. And then how do you add
that's
another
a distinction? That's a real distinction, isn't it? Because so normally a true consulting role is you're just literally sharing your advice, and then there's a second level below that where you're actually giving them the strategy as well.
Yeah. And each of the stages I would normally take a project through, now I'm having to lead their team into the reasons for each one and why we're doing it, and then get everyone to buy into each one. It's quite interesting so far, but obviously it took a bit of work to work out how I was going to run each session, and we're meeting a couple of times a week to make it happen fast. What was the other thing? Yesterday I attended a webinar on blockchain cryptocurrencies from an academic. I thought it'd be interesting to see things from a different perspective. He's written a book, and I don't think I learned anything particularly new, but I was enjoying the questions from the audience, because they were all academics as well, and the questions are very different to the ones we would experience. So there were things like, what's the influence of China on the blockchain and things like that. So more geopolitical and things. The book is an academic textbook, basically an introduction to cryptocurrencies from Routledge.
Okay.
That might not be the exact name.
Yeah. So memorable, the title. There are a couple of good books out there. The names don't spring to my mind immediately, but there are a couple of really good books on cryptocurrencies and blockchain.
Yeah, I mean,
can't remember either of them.
This guy has been working on the the EU group on how to regulate cryptocurrencies and things like that. So it's a very different angle that he's looking at things from, compared to, I guess, how we're actually using it for a practical purpose for business. Fascinating. What have you been up to for the past week?
Okay, that'll be interesting. I have ordered a walking running.
Well, which?
Don't die of shock. Well, it'll be walking in my case initially, because I've worked out that I really need to. Yeah, no, I'm just going to walk. That's fine. But it's just that I never want to go out for a walk because of the weather and various other practical matters. So I've just bitten the bullet and ordered one. It's a foldable one. I didn't realise, because that was one of the things I didn't want, was a great big thing sitting in my bedroom.
They are quite big, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but this one folds up upright, so it stands up against the wall, or tucks behind the wardrobe, ideally. And so it's just because I'm so into clothes at the moment. That's that's something I can listen to while I'm walking, which will give me the incentive to do it, because there's lots of practical reasons why I don't want to go out walking in the but as the weather improves, I might, if my stamina was built up a bit. So I'm just going to start with 15 minutes a day and try and edge it up by 5 minutes at a time. And because Clubhouse is so engaging me at the moment, I'll be able to listen to, join in. Well, not join in, obviously, because I'll be out of breath. But listen to different rooms. And
please don't invite me to the stage.
The thing about Clubhouse is that even if you're just listening in, if you're followed by one of the speakers, your icon, your little face, goes up higher in a select band of people that are followed by the speakers. So it really, even just listening in, brings you new followers, which is really quite exciting.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week, I remember.
Yeah. And the novelty hasn't worn. I'm really enjoying it a lot. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm running my challenge this week. So I ran Facebook ads for it this time, and I was getting leads. It was during the election time. It got a lot more expensive. So I was paying about a tenner a lead in the end, but lots of people were seeing my page or going to my website. And of course, I then was running, I constantly run a remarketing campaign to people who visited my website, engaged with my page, what else? Listened to any of our videos, or watched any of our videos on Facebook. So it's a low level remarketing running all the time. It's about $5 a day. And that just brings people back when they've got called away. Perhaps they were thinking of taking action, but the dog suddenly did something horrible, or the baby fell over, or whatever, or they had to answer the door to the Amazon man. So I ended up with about 120 leads. The problem was it was quite a long lead time. So I started the advertising in end of November, and it ran to the challenge which started on the 18th of January. And I think that was too long a lead time. So what I'm going to do now, I've got the mechanics of the challenge really down. I'm going to run a challenge a month now and see if that makes a difference with it not being quite so long between sign up and challenge.
I'm laughing because you were last time you were saying this might be the last one I run, or the only one this year. And now you're like, one a month.
Yeah, but the thing is, out of 110 people that signed up, about 46 then moved over into the group on Facebook at the appropriate time. And so that was quite a good conversion ratio. And especially in view of the fact that I haven't figured out the SMS reminders yet. I think if I could have figured out the SMS reminders, I would have got a lot more than 46 over there. And if it hadn't been such a long lead time, I think a lot more of them would have engaged. So I've got about 10 to 12 engaging actively and getting a lot out of it, which is really nice. And then I've just started on the last 2 days, you make your offer at the bottom of the post they read to do the tasks. And then you also make an offer by email. And then you also mail your entire mailing list once the challenge is over, just once, to say, we've just finished a challenge. There's a special offer on for the participants. As you're on my mailing list, you can have the same special offer. And it closes on Sunday. So it gives you a regular reason to make an offer to your mailing list. And I know that's going to be part of our discussions today about passive income. But This is largely passive. Once I spend a day setting it up, and then I just pop in every afternoon and have a look at the Ask Me Anything questions, and then I just record a live into the group, which is private, answering people's questions and giving feedback on the things they've produced. And I really enjoy it. It's not exactly hard work. It's one day to set it up, and then it's about half an hour a day interacting in the group. And because all of the tuition videos have been pre-recorded and they've all been set up to go out and scheduled, go out every morning, and the Ask Me Anything post goes out automatically as well, and the emails go out automatically, and I've just got to work out how to send the SMS messages automatically, which used to be bot messages, but then the Brexit and European Union changed that. So I've just got to go through the training course again, really, and get it all going again for February. I've set the date, which is the 22nd. And the remarketing campaign hopefully is rolling all the time, bringing people back to the site. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how many people sign up out of the 12 that are interacting. I usually get about between 1 and 3.
Okay.
So
that's good.
Yeah, and it's a high ticket item too. So because it's a 1-year membership, so it's. We're going to talk about this more in the middle bit, but it's how I feel most comfortable and how I feel is most passive for me, which is pretty much the goal nowadays. Because I've got Clubhouse to listen to.
Indeed.
I've got Bitcoin trading to do and Clubhouse to listen to.
What was the most interesting thing you listened to on Clubhouse in the last week then?
Well, I found out how to get our podcast onto Amazon Music. They've just opened up for music and podcasts. So that I was listening to a group about podcasts mainly because the people I know are in it and one of my clients is in it, and so that was a good snippet that I heard, and I went immediately and went into Libsyn and found that you could just tick a couple of boxes and fill in a couple of things, and Bob's your uncle. We should be on Amazon Music now.
We're on another platform.
A big one too, a big growing one that's search engine friendly. So if people search business podcasts, we might be some of the first to be there. Yeah, poking it indeed. Yeah, so that's been my week. I can't think of anything else about the kids. They're all fine, fit and healthy. Nelson had an incident with it's quite funny really. He and his boss, they do quite a lot of gutter work and gutter cleaning, and they were in this alleyway, and it was so narrow that rather than holding the boss's ladder from the side of the boss, being up the ladder, he was actually underneath the ladder holding it from the other side because it was quite a steep slope. Mm-hmm. And he said he was standing there minding his own business, and he just heard this, "Oh my God." And what had happened was the boss had dislodged some twigs from a gutter, and the whole lot had just dropped on him. And Nelson, with split-second responses, realised it was coming his way. So managed to duck out from under the ladder and only got it down his back. But his boss was absolutely covered in all this stuff out of the gutter. It was absolutely repulsive. They were laughing about it, though. They've been working in the rain this week. I don't know how they do it. It's freezing and wet, but he has a real laugh. It's really, because his thing is music, obviously, but he seems to really enjoy this job. It's quite manual, and he gets on really well with his boss. So I think it ticks all Nelson's requirement boxes: activity, being outside, working with someone he likes, having a laugh.
It's a funny old thing, but exercise makes us feel better, even if it's work related.
Yeah. And he would be going stark staring mad if he was locked in his bedroom trying to make music all day. But he comes home in the evening and does that, and it's a completely different change of pace, So it's good. So Pete, we've got a topic
We've normally got a topic, but yeah.
Would you like to set us up then?
Set us up. So, the other week you recommended a book, Nomad Capitalist, which I finished reading. It was a good book. There's bits of it I disagree with, and bits that I just made me think, which is good. I didn't think it really needed a chapter on romance abroad, but hey.
Well, it was a big deal for him. He found himself completely out of step with American women. He's a more old-fashioned, gentle type, and he wasn't macho enough for them, and he had to go to other countries to find women who appreciated him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so there were some approaches to investing which I thought were quite interesting and reminded me of stuff that I knew but I'd forgotten about.
Yeah.
And one of those I was quite interested in was the different returns you could get by investing for passive income internationally, not just in your own market. I don't know if we'll get that deep into it today, but I would say I was interested in the general topic of passive investing. So investing to get an income that happens, whatever, for least amount of effort. Because my thing this year is improving my work-life balance, which means I need to be able to turn down work, even if it's interesting, which is always difficult to do. And so I've got some questions like, what is a good passive investment? What a passive income? How much is enough to make a difference? How much is enough? And what have we both tried over the years? Because I mean, I've always looked for this sort of thing in my business, but my business has moved from software as a service, which was quite passive in some respects, to much more consulting jobs that happen for 2 or 3 months or a bit longer, but chunks. And so passive income, I think, would be very useful as a smoother for my business as well. So I've got lots to talk about. Yeah. And how much of this can we put through a business? How much should be external? Oh, I feel like it's quite interesting.
Well, all you need to do is wind me up on this topic and I will talk for an hour without him blinking. I know we've got to stop it. Oh, no, we haven't. Actually, I don't have. You have to stop, don't you?
Yes.
This has always been my goal. I found out about passive income back in 1998, 99, and my entire goal of my business has always been to create passive income within it, because I'm not someone who's good at continually up to do the same thing over and over again. So I started my thing by writing a newsletter, attracting people into my mailing list, warming them up to the whole topic of the money gym, as it was then, and then selling coaching. But it got to a point when I had the hotel where I didn't want to keep saying the same things over and over again to different people. So I thought, let's turn it into a course. So I started recording with the permission of some of my clients. I started recording what we were talking about because the money gym was productized into 10 modules. So that's the first step, is to start productizing your knowledge base, your tuition. And so that the clients then started doing home study and then coming to you to help them implement the things they'd learned by watching the videos or listening to the audio or working through the worksheets. So there are 3, and that's one of the things you need to know, is that people learn in 3 different modalities, obviously. I'm sure you know that, being a teacher at the university. And so there's video, there's audio, and there's written, which is visual as well. But then there's also kinesthetic, and that's when people start to watch or listen and then do. And that's often where they need the hand holding. So that's how I swap my calls over to helping them specifically deal with the practicalities of property investing, stock trading or investing, and building an internet business. And then so you've got courses are a real classic example of passive income, but there's also
how passive are they? How much work do you actually have to do to keep it running, keep it up to date?
Well, my courses, I've got all my old courses, the ones that are evergreen, inside my Thinkific site, and the only one I really focus on now is the clicks and leads one, which is the marketing one. And so if you can get the hardest work out of anything, it's not creating the course, it's not making the course, it's actually, does anyone want the course to start with? Is it an offer that converts? So you've got to get in front of enough traffic, eyeballs to your offer, I call it, in order to know whether it's a course that people are going to buy. So I would recommend not starting doing the whole course to start with. I would recommend doing module 1 and then trying to sell it and then make the course as you go. But there's also other methods of passive income, which I've never looked on property as passive income, even though my friend's company was called Passive Income, Passive Investments, because unless you hand off the whole thing with a property rental to an agent, who are quite frankly never going to do as good a job of looking after property as you would. But I know once people get beyond, say, 3 properties, they'll often start handing it off to a rental agent, or indeed starting a rental agents themselves. I know people who got into property investing and ended up buying the rental agent so that they had someone good to look after their own properties and other people's. But there's also affiliate income, and this in the corporate
this is one I want to get into.
Yeah. Well, in the corporate world, I mean, affiliate income is traditionally thought of as some sort of sleazy little thing that internet marketers do, where they promote ebooks to their mailing list. And in fact, there are a lot of people still doing that, and that with varying degrees of success and integrity. But when you get into the corporate world, it gets really quite exciting. And there is a great book by, I think it's Jay Abraham, who talks about how to get everything you want out of everything you've already got. That's actually the title of the book. Or something similar, and I'm pretty sure it's Jay Abraham or Dan. Yeah, well, it's easy to find. Just type it into. It's either Jay Abraham or Dan Sullivan, but that's the title: How to Get Everything You Want Out of Whatever You've Already Got, or something, what you've already got. And that is where you start looking at really interesting things like three-way joint ventures. You can start with a two-way first. So, for example, if you've got a mailing list that's of buyers, it's better to have a mailing list of buyers that are interested in one topic. Then you think about someone who's got a mailing list of buyers in a related topic that would be interested in your offer, and you do a joint venture where you mail for them, they mail for you, and you divvy up the income accordingly, whatever you agree. Then there gets three-way joint ventures where you mail for one party, but perhaps the other party isn't so likely to get a benefit from mailing to your list. So then you bring in a third party who that person wants to be mailed for, and the third party wants to be mailed for by you. So that's called like a triangular joint venture, and they work really, really well. So that's quite passive, because you've done the hard yards in building up your list and building up your following on social media, and now you're promoting something that you believe in, there's a benefit to your people, and they're doing the same. So those are really nice, especially when you get into the realms of doing JVs with people with millions of customers, which is what corporates do, have mailing lists of millions of customers. So it works quite well with a service business teaming up with a product business, and vice versa.
It occurs to me I've had some income in this area for the past year. So because I've had a couple of authors who've sponsored the newsletter to get their book out in front of my audience. That sort of thing. So yeah, that definitely works. Come to sponsorship.
That's a great way to earn passive income. So for example, if we build this podcast up to a certain listenership, we would get people interested in advertising to us. And although the published rates are pretty low, they'll say that we'll pay, I don't know, £10 per 1,000 downloads or something. If you go and find someone who's really tightly aligned with your audience, you can often just name your price really to get someone to sponsor you, because they know that you've got a highly engaged audience that are going to be really interested in their product or service. Yeah,
that makes sense. Sometimes you've got to watch out. You've got to watch out. I've got an offer at the moment. Basically, it's an affiliate offer, in fact, to sell tickets for a competing conference to mine.
Okay.
So what do you do there? So these people, maybe they'll only go to one conference a year. Do you send them to a competing conference?
I would say if it's at the opposite end of the year. If it's at the opposite end of the year to your conference, why not?
You reckon? Historically, this other conference sees who speaks at mine and then gets them to speak at theirs.
Well, then you don't, then, do you?
But they're doing that anyway.
Yeah, if they're doing that anyway, then, and it's the opposite end of the year to your conference, I really think it might be worth. The thing you've always got to bear in mind is this going to serve my people? Because if it's not going to serve your people, just exploit your list, and that's not a good way forward, because people can tell when people are starting to just flog anything to their customers and their prospects, that tarnishes you in their mind. So you have to be very careful about how you frame up the offer and why you've chosen to make the offer. Really make it personal. I'm sure you do that anyway, so that's not an issue with you, I don't think. The other things are royalties. So, for example, if you've made a book, if you've made a painting, if you've made some music, if you've made some software, you can license it. You know, you don't need to sell it. You can license it for someone else's use. And that's becoming increasingly interesting now with the whole blockchain ownership side of things, where people are starting to own a bit of a painting.
Yeah. Also, I've heard you can invest in royalties. So you can say an artist has created a piece or a piece of music, whatever, you can buy the royalties off them. So you invest, and then you get the future income.
Which is great for the artist if they're a bit skint and they need a lump sum up front.
Mm-hmm.
So go on.
Go on.
We've got a bit of delay here, haven't we?
Yeah, we did. Then we both said go on at the same time.
Yeah. So you must have come across other things like this because you've been in the software world, haven't you? So.
Yeah, so in software, you quite often buy a company because they've got a fairly passive income, shall we say. So this works historically in telecoms. That's how I sold my telecoms business really easily within a month. It's because I've got customers who are going to be spending money every month, and it's not that easy to move all your telecoms to someone else. You know, so there's. And funnily enough, I was chatting to the people who bought that yesterday and a catch up, and they were like, "Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously there's been some churn, but it's been 8 years and we still have nearly all of your customers active."
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And just thinking about that side of things, you can invest in companies and become a non-exec director, which means that you don't work in the company, but you share your experience of business or your experience in a particular area like marketing, digital marketing. And that's, I think, the way I'm going to go long term, because I don't think if I just stopped, that would be a complete waste of 25 years of experience, wouldn't it? But probably, I could invest in a company, give them a little bit of a financial boost, but mainly oversee their marketing in a consultancy role they don't have to pay for.
And just make the money back, as it were, from dividends.
Yeah, or even taking a salary once the company becomes more financially successful. So then you're not actually working in the company, you're swapping your experience and knowledge for a small regular income.
Yeah. So what would you say was a good spread of diversity for your passive incomes? This is one of the things, this is why I was looking at like buying royalties. What else did I find? I found a site where you can invest from like $1,000 in farmland. Other people are organizing it. It's more like a trust. Yeah. So they're doing lots of real estate investment. And that's quite a specific farmland one.
That all depends on planning permission, which is what's the word? Capricious, to say the least.
Actually, no, they're only literally out to make money from farming on them, as opposed to a planning one. So you're looking at yields of like 5 to 10%, not yields, rental income of 5 to 10% a year, and the value of the land should go up as well. And you're like, well, that's quite interesting.
That's very passive.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, that's in the US, that particular one I found, but this is one of the things he was talking about in Nomad Capitalist, was finding stuff like that in up-and-coming markets around the world.
Yes.
That'd be quite interesting.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like there's not that many easily accessible options in this space yet. I don't want to start.
I think the minute you start looking, opportunities will start coming to you, because word will get around that you're interested. The other thing that occurred to me was that my little house that I lived in Greece is up for sale, and I'm very tempted to have a permanent place there, but I would want to do it over a period of years and not get a bank involved. So if the owner was up for vendor finance, then that would be a way of buying a property in Greece without having to put a big chunk down. And then I could certainly quietly market it to friends and family just to cover costs and make a small profit and have a place to live in myself. So if you own a second property, then Airbnb-ing it or holiday letting it or whatever is a great way to do it. But you obviously have to have the service personnel on the ground to maintain that. Yeah,
for me, that doesn't sound passive enough. Yeah, so I'm like, let's go super passive.
Right. Okay. Well, the thing is, you really need to address the getting the most out of your own expertise first. as you know, because you've got you need to make a course. You need to make a course. You've been trying to make a course for a while, and you're just too busy to do it. So that's got to be the one thing that's got to be addressed first, surely, because that'll make you the most income, and it acts as a marketing tool, because people will come along and buy your course to test you out, and then they'll probably hire you in some capacity. If you want to be hired.
I'm also looking at other funds. So every now and then you've got a few thousand sitting in the company bank account not being used for something, or you've got it put aside for something, and it's not making any money there. Where could you put that? I'm also including
I would be interested.
I'm also interested, like, how much should we look at blockchain and DeFi and yield, yearn, things like that as part of the overall portfolio?
I'm sorry, I am completely disinterested in that whole side of things. I think it's so difficult for the ordinary person to tell a scam from the real thing, that and whenever something's getting bigger. I mean, I was there in 2017 when this all happened, before all the IPO stuff was going on.
The ICOs.
And there's hardly any there's hardly any companies, and also on a sort of moral ground, principle ground, the banks have caused the forthcoming problems, financial problems, which may or may not be the reasons that the governments are reacting so draconian, because they want to bring in a different, they want to bring in central digital currencies. So I don't believe that going from the frying pan into the fire is a good. A lot of people have been burnt by the banks. Now they're going to jump into something that's even less regulated, and could, I just don't believe a lot of those companies are real.
Okay, so that's fair. Yeah. No, I mean, that's why I'm not invested in anything like that yet. It's too hard to find the right answers.
Yeah, you might find, because you're better at research than I am, I suspect, you might find some good ones. So don't take my distaste for the whole DeFi thing. You do your own. Yeah. It's like anything. Do your own research and make your own mind up. And obviously, we're not financial advisors here. Definitely not.
Indeed. So another area I was looking at was, why not buy a business that generates a passive income?
Nice idea. Yeah. What would you look at?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I came across a link which I haven't had time to investigate. So, for instance, on Shopify, you can find Shopify shops up for sale.
Oh, can you? I'm interested in that.
There you go. You see. So I was like, I'm going to spend some time looking at that at some point. And then I was also thinking, what about
because again,
crowd equity funding, where you invest in a business, but a small amount, spread it across a few different businesses. And that might be more of a growth than passive income.
Yeah, the thing about the Shopify thing that excites me, as is buying there is a company that sells aged domain names with sometimes with businesses attached that get traffic, organic traffic, and have mailing lists, but the owner's just fed up. They don't have the skills, or they want to retire, or whatever. And I think looking at businesses to invest in or buy, where your personal skills or people that could help, just is such a great idea, because you're taking on something that's already got something you want, i.e. a mailing list or traffic, and you're just enhancing it with your own business, especially if it's it could be just in nothing related. It could be something just that you're interested in for fun. The Shopify thing sounds great.
It does sound really interesting, doesn't it? Because there are people apparently who just build up new Shopify fronts and build a mailing list and a marketing and get some stuff, and then they get bored. And they want to take not so much bored. They might not be as interested in the passive income. They want the lump. Yeah, but if you're investing for passive income, then that's a good fit, isn't it? So.
Yes, it is. And I ought to talk to Neil, because he's got 1,500 Amazon entrepreneurs who are have got Amazon stores, and you can buy those if you want to. I mean, I'm not so interested. That's going to be
remarkably similar, I would have thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so interested in stuff that deals with physical product at all, and especially not where I don't know anything about it. I think I would definitely be more interested in Shopify stuff where it's physical product that someone is making, for example, or they're buying something like where they've got existing suppliers. So you're buying stuff that's being made. Yeah, so I'm contradicting myself there, aren't I? Because Shopify and Amazon are awfully similar.
They are.
When you think about it.
I would say so. I think you've probably got a bit more control over your fate with Shopify.
You've got, I mean, one of my clients is not only a successful YouTuber, but she has a Shopify store that sells conversation cards, which sell to people like councils and schools. So they use them, you know, to facilitate meetings or facilitate children's learning. And she's got that down. I mean, that's pretty much a passive income stream for her and has been for the last sort of 10 years or so. And she keeps thinking about either selling it or working on it to grow it, but it just churns along, making a certain amount of money every month. And because it's so, Shopify is quite SEO friendly. So whenever you put in conversation cards or difficult conversations or whatever, her site pops up, and half of her traffic to Shopify, her Shopify store, comes from her WordPress website. So it occurs to me that if you bought a Shopify store and put a good WordPress website in front of it with lots of content, and you paid someone to continually make content, that would boost your Shopify sales by as much as 100%.
This is what I was thinking. So you'd take one of these that's doing all right, obviously. So it should be conservatively, it should make you money, and then you put some extra expertise in it. Yeah.
And she doesn't do any Facebook advertising. She doesn't do any Google advertising. She doesn't do anything like that. Whereas if you came in and did all that, that would again boost the revenue, wouldn't it?
You're interested now, aren't you? I can tell.
Yeah, I am interested now. So if you come across anything that you think would benefit from my skills as well, let's talk about it.
Yeah, okay. That's an interesting idea as well. It's like the triple venture type approach.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So what else can I think of that brings passive income?
I mean, the other one I'm in already is peer-to-peer lending. Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, and that brings that. What's the return on that? Was it 8% a year or something?
Yeah, I'm still getting around 8%, even in the downturn at the moment.
Yeah, and is that spread out over lots of several companies?
So it's individuals. It's spread out over like hundreds. So what you're aiming to do is only lend a tenner to each person, in effect.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So because some of them do go to bad debts. You know, you are a bank, in effect. You are taking a risk, and the 8% is after that.
Yeah. And what's the platform you use for that?
So I use Zopa mainly. There's also one called Rate Setter, which
Rate Setter, RATE.
Yep.
And Zopa, ZOPA.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and there's some other ones out there for like lending to companies and things. I'm not so keen on that one because I don't feel like you're able to lend across as many the way the platforms are set up. Yeah.
And do you put your returns back in? Do they get put in annually or monthly, or what happens?
So this is a good question. So at the moment, I'm auto reinvesting to get bigger and bigger passive income in the end. But at what point do you? Because it's great seeing that total figure go up.
Yeah.
But at what point do you actually start taking a passive income?
Well, I think the thing has got to be how, to cover your existing income. So if you're earning, I don't know, $5,000 a month or 10 grand a month or whatever, then that's got to be your first goal, is to match that with passive income. And I really.
But what about, just take this into account. Say you're on $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
And then you start taking a passive income of $1,000 a month, and then you only need to earn 4, and then you've got your slightly better quality of life you were aiming for.
Well, yes, it depends whether you want to work one day less a week, or whether you want to go on holiday with the extra. Are you going to work less or spend more?
I know, but my default, is I like seeing figures go up.
Yeah. Okay.
But also, my mission is to work a bit less.
Your priorities the priorities have changed recently, haven't they? So I wouldn't want to work less, because
then you're 1 day a week.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I set things up so that Thursdays is my day for appointments. We're having a little break from tradition here because it's easier for you
teaching
at the moment.
and all sorts of things on Thursdays at the moment.
Yeah. So that's cool. I mean, Friday, Thursday and Friday mornings. It's not exactly a hardship, is it? But I do the rest of the week. I am investigating and learning and chatting, and so I do things that don't have to be done from my desk. But Thursdays is the desk day, and Friday mornings now. So so that's my chosen lifestyle. I'll never forget the first time I came across the concept of passive income. Sort of now, but it was in a book called Swimming with Piranhas Makes You Hungry, which is a fantastic little book, and it was about the 10th. Yeah, it's a great title. It's a very famous book, and it's by a guy called Professor Colin Turner, who is a professor of entrepreneurship somewhere. And funnily enough, I read his book and it made such a massive impact on my life. I did something that I never normally do. I went and gave him an Amazon review. And I remember when that was 90, Nelson was 97. It must have been 98, 99. And then I didn't think anything more of it. And 10 years later, he emailed me and he said, a friend has just sent me a copy of your Amazon review that you wrote so long ago. I'm so sorry I missed it and didn't thank you then. He said, and would you like, I think he offered me 500 copies of his book to send out to people. So obviously he was making enough money from he's a very famous personal development and businessman now. But I think we did some sort of webinar together and I interviewed him and then we gave out, I don't think I accepted 500. I think I probably asked for about 10 copies of his book. And we gave those away. It might have been 50, actually. I think I might have asked for 50. And a big box arrived, and I said, we did a webinar, and then I gave away 50 copies of his book, and that was great for him because books are really good for this. So that's another thing you need to think about, is because you've got passive income from people listening to it on Audible, and that's quite good. You've got passive income from people reading it on Kindle, and you've got passive income from the sales. But the best thing is if you can order it cheaply and use it as a marketing tool or a giveaway or whatever. And I don't make much from my books, but I make, it trickles over, put it that way, and there's no overhead to it at all. So, but if you can get a seller or get it picked up by a big publishing house, and where you say you sold 100,000 copies and they came along and offered you a deal, then that's passive income, isn't it? From intellectual property, it's called. Yeah. But that was a good story about Colin Turner. I never forget when he popped into my inbox 10 years later.
That's really great. I like that a lot. Hey, look, I'm about to run out of time.
Yeah.
So
run out of time. Yes.
Yeah. So is there anything you'd like to add on the passive income side of things?
I don't think so at the moment. I think it's such an enormous topic, but I think as soon as people
we could dive into some of them more, couldn't we? I guess in future episodes.
Yeah, let's talk more about it next week, because I didn't finish the story about how there was a drawing in that book that turned my life around the concept of passive income. What are you looking forward to this week?
Go for it. We've got time for that. That's fine. Let's hear about the drawing, because it's relevant to what we talked about.
Okay. Yeah, it's a really cool little drawing, and I'm trying to do it back to front so that it makes sense for you and people watching. So if you draw yourself a graph, an axis. So this one is money. The down one is money, and the bottom one is time. And if you draw yourself a little curved line, say about halfway down the money one, so you come out of college and you start work. And if you're good at what you do, or you don't get too distracted by many different jobs like I did, you go along like that, and gradually your income starts to go up. Mm-hmm. And it goes up, so you're earning more. Now, what happens is at the same point, you start the second line at the same point, which is your expenses. And what happens to most people is their expenses follow the income line up. Mm-hmm. But if you can keep your expenses below the income line, the gap between the two is what most people save. But what most people don't do is start to invest those savings. They just save. And then now you're going to draw another line starting at the very bottom of the financial side of things. And you're going to creep it along the bottom, and then you're going to make it do what's called a hockey stick curve. And it's going to go up sharply as time goes by. And the minute that it crosses your expenses line, this is the income from your investments, by the way. Mm-hmm. And the minute it crosses the line, that's the you're financially free, because you don't have to work again, because your investments will carry on growing, and if you can keep your expenses below what you're earning from your investments, you're financially free now. And the thing that really got me with that drawing was the fact that you can, by keeping your expenses down, increasing your income, the bigger the gap between those two, the faster that bottom line grows, because your investments from the income from your investments goes up to meet your expenses line quicker. And that was because up till that point, I hadn't got excited about investing at all, because I was looking at 2% return, 3% return. I didn't know that bigger returns were possible. And that book really opened my eyes to the fact that it can be quicker than when you retire. By your own actions, you can make it all coalesce quicker. I remember sitting on the tube. I'd read this book 3 or 4 times and not seen that drawing. And I remember sitting on the tube, and it was like a bolt of lightning had struck me at that point. And that set off my goal to create passive income in my life.
That's very
good
cool.
Story, eh?
Yeah, I like that. The power of a good diagram.
The power of a good diagram, especially for visual people like me, which is why I like George Gammon and his whiteboard videos, because he draws it out on a whiteboard and I can understand it better. So what are you looking forward to this week then, Pete?
Oh, this week, more client work, because I'm pretty busy with that at the moment. And later in the week, I've got a presentation to a few hundred senior HR people in Bangalore on gamification and HR, obviously, which I'm quite looking forward to, because I haven't done anything in India for a little while, so it'd be nice to see where they're up to. But I've been there in person.
Do HR people find? Yeah, of course. Do HR people find you, or do you go and find them?
I was recommended for this one, so by someone who's seen me deliver a presentation. There you go.
I'm only asking because a client of mine is keen to get in front of HR people. Cool. All right. I'm looking forward to
there are a lot of HR organisations that just any of them that run monthly meetups or things like that for senior HR people. There are lots of groups that HR people are members of. So find those, and they're always looking for speakers.
Oh, okay. Well, I will do that. Yeah, because they are quite good at what they do, these people. But senior HR people are their main target market. So
there you go. All right. Super. And what are you looking forward to next week?
I'm looking forward to the end of my challenge to see how many people sign up. I'm looking forward to my walking machine arriving today and setting that up and getting on it and listening to Clubhouse. Not much else to look forward to, really. It's getting a bit Groundhog Day over here, I tell you. But no, I'm good. I'm cheerful.
I keep buying wine when I'm bored, but now I've got no room to store anymore. So I've got to find another hobby.
Have you got a good cellar at both residences now?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes.
To a certain extent that it keeps getting drunk.
Well, except that I cycle to one of them, so I can't take many bottles at the same time.
Of course you can't, yeah. Well, have a great week, and don't work too hard, and keep thinking on the passive income thing. I'd love to talk more about digital nomad as well. What's his name? Nomad capitalist.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You have a good week too, and we'll see you next week, everyone.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you. Bye.
You're listening to the Poke It Podcast with Pete Jenkins and Nicola Cairncross. You can find me at gamificationplus.uk and Nicola at clicksandleads.com.